and I'm going to mention it again. I talked about it on Monday. Shit, I talked about it last week. It bears repeating again here tonight. There's one silver lining about this defense. They have not looked great. Last week against KJ Jefferson in Arkansas, KJ looked like an All-American. Made to look like an All-American. Dude went off. And some of those things you can prevent with better play. Yes, meaning guys just did not make the plays when you're in the backfield and you can't bring KJ down, a blown coverage because you're trying to play somebody else's responsibility. Yeah. Like there are some things that you have to clean up from the physical side of things. Here is the number one thing that is killing the defense. You're not playing fundamentally sound. Does it sound familiar? Because in 2021, 2020, there were some schematical things that were going on, and you can't mistake that. But there was also a lot of missed assignments. There's a lot of missed assignments on this defense. A lot of missed assignments. At some point, you got to be locked in and focused. You got to stay disciplined. If Jackson Dart wants to run for 15 yards and you're still covering your man because it's your responsibility, you got to do it. Number one thing, defensively, it's time to start playing the way that you can play. Now, BK just mentioned this in reference to Mason Smith as an example, which is 1,000% a shot at Matt House about Mason Smith playing the nose. He's doing a lot of dirty work. That's not a lie. That's true. And that they have to be more creative with him. It's not just Mason Smith. It's everybody. It's everybody. You know, I heard a lot of you over the last week or so talking about, well, you know, Blake, the defense really didn't do bad in the first half. Guys, they let up over 200 yards of total offense. What are you talking about? Now, they came big up in the red zone, but don't act as if that they did not have a lot of bad plays in the first half that gave Arkansas a lot of yards, because they did. The only 3 and out of the night that they have was the first drive, and they allowed 8 yards, and they got a punt, and you got the ball, and you couldn't go score. That's the truth. I think that there has to be someone that stands up there and says to themselves, to Matt House included, if guys are not fundamentally sound, that's on you. Because they have to play that way. You know, against Alabama last year, you were completely and utterly fundamentally sound. There were times against Florida State in the first half that you did some really good things and were fundamentally sound. When you start getting out of your rush lanes, when you stop getting out of your gaps and not reading your keys, you're going to get beat. Now, this week, if you do things that aren't of your assignment, Lane Kiffin will pick you apart. I don't care how they looked against Alabama last week. You're not Alabama defensively. You're not. We talk a whole bunch of shizite, myself included, about how down Alabama is. Well, you know what? One thing that's not down at Alabama? Defense. They're not. They broke down in the second half, mainly the fourth quarter against Texas, because it was 3 and out from their offense, and they couldn't catch their breath, and they were just standing there taking haymakers from Texas. A lot like what happened to you against Florida State. But they have dudes and play fundamentally sound all over the place. It's why they are a top 5 defense right now in the country, or top 10 defense right now in the country in total defense. It is not the coach's responsibility for you to know your assignments. If you don't play them, Lane will pick you apart. Don't give him that opportunity to do that. Secondary, somebody's got to step up. We're going to say it every week. We're going to say it every single week until it happens. Because these next 2 weeks, these 2 offenses that you face, guys, you can make all the jokes you want about Missouri. Right now, we have not shown that we have anybody on our team that can stop Luther Burden. Nobody. if Trey Harris is back for Ole Miss, the kid from Louisiana, you better not let him get loose. But if you play fundamentally sound, and people don't like hearing that coach speak, you don't like coming in here and listening to that damn coach speak. I know that you don't. You're like, well, Blake, that, I don't like when you say stuff like that. But, guys, it's true. They did it under Orgeron. A lot of the same recruits, they're doing it now. At some time, you got to wake up and say, I am not playing my responsibility. You don't like to hear that? That's the truth. You look and say, oh, well, this guy didn't make the play. Yeah, because he should have been in the A gap and not the B gap. You got two dudes going into the same gap. There's no reason why Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith should be trying to penetrate the same hole. Pause. None. Wake up. There's been too much football play from these guys to been happen. The only excuses that you should have is from a guy like Whit Weeks, and I would even venture to say a guy like Harold Perkins, because Harold is a unique unicorn that's flying around the field that doesn't really have a position. Harold Perkins plays football. Well, by damn it, let him play it. Number two, this front seven has got to go off. Like, there are no exceptions. There are no rules. If you cannot find a way to get after Jackson Dart and stop this running game that Ole Miss has, then you have massive question marks. Massive question marks up front. Because we've seen Tulane do it. At times we've seen Georgia Tech do it. And we saw Alabama do it the last week. Guys, they have not been successful at running the football. The only real true success that they've had running the football is with the kid Bentley, who, if you get to the edge, he is going to destroy you. Number 24, Bentley. If Bentley gets out in space, you're in trouble. He's got more shakes than a protein shake. More shakes than a protein shake. You have to get penetration. I want to see more of Jordan Jefferson. He was my number 5, but I'm going to mix these two together. Since I already gave you one, then we had 6. I want to see more of Jordan Jefferson. If you want to get Mason Smith one-on-one opportunities, well, then put Jordan Jefferson at the nose. Because you know who hasn't had problems taking on double teams? Jordan Jefferson. If it sounds like I'm spicy, if it sounds like I'm upset, it's because I know that you have the talent. You're not playing fundamentally sound. This front seven should be able to. It's the same take that we had a week ago today. Guys, a week ago today, I said the same thing about Arkansas. A beat-up offensive line. If you can't get after KJ in this running game, you might get beat. And by God, you won by 3. We're almost 800 episodes into this hoe, and you would think that we've watched enough football to know. Guys, I've played it all my life. I've been around it all my life. If this front seven cannot get after that ass, it's going to be a long night. You're going to give up points to them. You're going to give up yards. They're at home. It's at night. Eli Manning and his floppy-ass hair is going to be in attendance, even though I like Eli. I actually like Eli a lot. Eli's one of my favorite dudes, really, if you just get to know him. I mean, Eli's a funny dude. I don't give a shit who's in the building. I don't care if the president, I don't care if Condoleezza Rice, I don't care who's in the building. The shades of Billy Cannon could walk through that damn door. It would not matter. If the front seven can't get after somebody's ass, you're going to lose. Time to step it up. Time to step it up. It's like I want to see Harold Perkins and Mason Smith pushing one each other. Left side. I can't have more passion than you do. If you're around kids, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to pause this. But I'm sure as an adult, you can read my lips. It's time to wake it. Wait. That's 10 seconds. Wake it the fuck up. Their O-line is Rudy Poo. It is what it is. I've watched the all 22 copy. Look, I wish I could turn the camera. In the studio right here, right now, we have Ole Miss and Georgia Tech playing right here. Let's see what happens. Oh, look, Jackson Dart hitting the fucking backfield. Wake it up. You were too good. You were too talented. And here's the truth. Here's the God's honest truth. This coaching staff that you're a little aggravated with right now, I get why you're aggravated. Believe me, I get why you're aggravated. Matt House, Brian Kelly, Kerry Cooks, Robert Steeples, who else? Diaco, Jancic, they have seen too much football not to get this corrected this week versus a very struggling O-line. Matt House, Jancic, Brian Kelly, etc. has forgotten more about football than we ever will know. All of us collectively. All 307 of us. This O-line's poo. They're poo. If I can watch Tulane get after that ass, you're not Tulane. You're not Tulane, man. You have a potential second-round pick and Mekhi Wingo up there. Two either were or borderline five-star recruits in Savion Jones and Mason Smith. If Mason Smith is not able to do what he does and you're not able to be creative enough to get him one-on-one opportunities, then it's your fault. Now, Brian Kelly, as I alluded to earlier, talked about we have to be more creative. That is a shot at Matt House. Put Jordan Brian Kelly mentioned it on Monday. Basically, in translation, this is what he's saying. I have no idea why Matt House put him at nose. Jordan Jefferson was recruited to play that position. Why? Because at West Virginia, he was kicking ass and taking names like his name was Chuck Norris. What was the Chuck Norris commercial that he was popular for? He hit the Bowflex in the offseason. The Bowflex. Y'all remember the Bowflex commercials with Chuck Norris? 1-800-BOWFLEX-1. I will never forget the number for Bowflex. 1-800-BOWFLEX-1. No, Blake, not the Bowflex. I still think that you got talent, man. I really do. I think that you can correct this to some extent. But like I mentioned, if you play this game to get your own stats and do X, Y, and Z, you're not going to be any good. You're not. That's how they played in 2020. Some of you were on this team. Wake it up. Number 3. Offensively. So Mondays when we sit down as a team and I come up with these, let me tell you what happened Monday. Monday, I was sitting here and really struggling with, do I really say a lot about the offense? What do I mean by that? Do I think that you need to get started off faster? Do you can't linger around like you did Ole Miss last year? You can't linger around like you did last week against Arkansas. You can't do that. You got to get after it. Offensively, there's not a lot I can say, but that you need to start off faster. And what do I mean by start off faster? When people hear me say something like that, and speaking of 800 episodes or being 800 episodes in, that doesn't mean going up tempo. That doesn't mean throwing the ball all over the place. That means hey, man, first drive, you get the ball, go score 7. Like, that's what that means. 2 drives, you're getting at minimum 10 points. That's what that means. The only thing that I can come up with in reference to starting faster, you got to get number 3 involved quicker. You have to get Logan Diggs the ball quicker. Alabama's offensive line struggled in the first half, but picked it up in the second half when that defense for Ole Miss started to get winded. Your offense is better than theirs. Bottom line. Bottom line. You want to know why you haven't seen or you didn't see Lance Hurd last week in reference to playing significant snaps at right tackle? It's because Miles Frazier said, you know what, man? This kid might be a 5-star, but he ain't taking my spot. You better go ask Dellinger what's up with him because he ain't taking my spot. I promise you that. And it's lit a spark under his ass because, quite honestly, he was that guy a year ago. Start off faster. Give this running game a chance to breathe a little bit. I know you want to throw it all over the place with Jaden Daniels. So do I. And you can't get away from it. You got to be, on first down. Or really, LSU has been so good. This is one thing that I love, adore about Mike Denbrock is Denbrock will throw the ball on first down and then run it on second down, even on third down. There have been multiple times since Mike Denbrock's been our offensive coordinator, he's run the ball on 3rd and 6 in light boxes and said, you can't put 5 guys in the box against my offensive line. I will kick your ass. Denbrock has been a dude, man. You average 35, let's just call it 35 because you can't score half points in football. He scored 35 points a game last year. You're at 43 points this year. He has been a breath of fresh air, even though at times last year the offense struggled. You're just seeing an offense that really just hasn't struggled a lot. I mean, when they have, they've picked it back up and got it rolling besides one quarter in Florida State. I'll get you all super chats in just a minute. Super chats in just a minute. Number 4. So with all of that being said, or number 5, with all of that being said, you got to be aggressive defensively. Jackson Dart is, what's the word I'm looking for here? He's like a deer in the headlights. He's Bambi in the headlights when you send pressure at him. Look at what Bama did last week. Look at what you did a year ago when you send the house after him, man. Look what happens. You gotta be aggressive. This Harold Perkins coming off the corner shit in a slot blitz, I don't like it. I really don't. I know you're trying to utilize him. I know you're trying to. You got personnel. You got depth. I need to see more Jordan Jefferson. I need to see Mason Smith lined up at the 3 tech. You won't be able to see this, but I think you'll know what I'm talking about. This is when, my wife throws away my whiteboard. I wish that I still had it so I could talk about this. I'm about to show y'all something. I don't know if you could see this, but this is what we call amoeba, or what we used to call amoeba. When the backers are lined up in both A gaps. You ran it a lot last year. And then you have a 3 tech, and a 5 and a 5 as the ends, meaning you have 2 defensive ends, 2 defensive tackles that are 3 tech. What a 3 tech is there a shade on the outside shoulder of the guard. So left for the, left side for the left guard, right for the right side in the 5 techniques. You got both backers in that A gap. Be creative. Put Harold Perkins in any one of these goddamn spaces. But at times, you're going to have to back one out, send a safety blitz. Like the best game, arguably the best called game that Matt House ever had was against Mississippi State. And guys, here, Major Burns had a sack. Major Burns is not built to be covering a third of the field and be a free safety. He's not. Send him on the – he is more not built like, he doesn't look like, but he plays more like a Jamal Adams. He's not a Grant Delpit. Let me say that again. He's more of a Jamal Adams who wants to be up in the, close to the line, can play the front 10 yards. You got to put him there, man. You got to put him there. Because even when he got shook like a protein shake a couple weeks ago, he turned the offender back in, and you were able to make the tackle and stop grambling, and then they would have to try to go for it, and they'd miss. What was it? Then they made the field goal or whatever it was. Be aggressive. Run some amoeba. Run some creative stuff. Run it a whole week. I don't know what you ran this week, but you're too simple. You're way too simple. I told y'all on Monday, there's a coordinator in the SEC that a lot of people know that I have a good connection to, and they have no idea what they're doing with Harold Perkins. They have none. I had one coach who's not a coordinator in the SEC this week tell me that they thought that Brian Kelly should be more hands-on with the defense because they know that when BK starts getting involved in making adjustments and calling some plays, doing this, hey, I'm seeing this, call this, that he's a lead at it. Guys, I've talked to multiple people, and look, BK is not one of those coaches. Like, there are times where you have to ask BK to be more involved.